Hey there, beautiful bride. I'm Jillian Rosich Kendrick, founder of My Best Wedding and MyWeddingPlanningCourse.com. Welcome to Wedding Wednesday. This is my Facebook Live that I do every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Facebook Live on my Facebook page, facebook.com/My Best Wedding page. So if you're on here live or you're watching later on, welcome. Thank you so much for spending your Wednesday evening with me. Thank you so much for giving your time to your wedding, to wedding planning, and I hope that what I have to say will be of benefit to you and that you will like it, share it, pass it on, and tell your friends about it as well. So I want to just say again, hello, welcome to Wedding Wednesday. I'm so excited to have you on board this Wednesday evening, and I hope you are having a fabulous day, a fabulous time wedding planning, and also just want to say happy holidays to everyone who has been celebrating the holidays the last few days and this past week. And so just want to say also, anyone who asks a question on Wedding Wednesday live with me right here will get a MyWeddingPlanningCourse.com notebook absolutely free sent from me. And this notebook seriously is amazing. You can see that I write in mine all the time. I'm constantly writing things, ripping out pages, updating stuff, and I just love it because it actually fits pretty perfectly like in your purse or even in maybe like a back pocket. It's really lightweight and easy to carry. Definitely not easy to haul around like a big 3-ring binder, but this you can take to meetings, you can take to your florist meeting, you can take to event meetings with you as well. So anyone who asks a question tonight live on Wedding Wednesday is going to get a free My Wedding Planning Course notebook from me. So if you have questions, go ahead and write in. I'd love to know who you are, where you're from, and even when your wedding date is, so let me know about that as well. Tonight on Wedding Wednesday, we are talking about wedding favors, and in particular, I was thinking about it's the holiday season, right? And I have done so much baking. I love baking for the holiday season, really. I mean, some of my favorite holiday memories are baking cookies with my mom when I was little, right? I'm sure you feel very similar to that. If not, you probably might even have your own children and or niece and nephews, and you're passing that tradition on to them as well. So I was thinking about baking and thinking about all the things we have to do around the holidays, and how does that apply to wedding planning? How can that be incorporated into wedding planning if possible at all, right? And so I realized when it comes to wedding favors, there are so many options with wedding favors, but a lot of people think that they have to buy their wedding favors. A lot of people think that they have to manufacture their wedding favors, and that wedding favors are something that you need to get from a store and that you can't necessarily create on your own or get from a local artist, right? And so I want to talk about that because I've been inspired by the holidays and all of the baking that I've been doing to talk about wedding favors. So a really big trend, I'm sure you know, that happened a couple of years ago, right, is the cupcake trend. There are plenty of people that were obsessed with cupcakes, myself included. In fact, I even thought about starting a cupcake business until like 3 of them popped up in the neighborhood. So there is that trend, and cupcakes are still really popular. There are a lot of couples that are foregoing the wedding cake and doing wedding cupcakes or doing individual cakes instead, and you can certainly do that for a decent price as well. But when it comes to favors, cupcakes in like a cute little box are super duper fun. Candies are a lot of fun as well. People are leaning towards like pies and things like that. They're kind of getting away from the cupcake trend. It's still really, really popular, don't get me wrong, but they're kind of leaning away from that just a little bit and going towards pies and cookies and other sort of baked goods. So you could even bake your own wedding favors, right? You can easily go to Michael's Crafts, or you can jump on Google or Amazon or wherever you need to and bulk purchase gift boxes you could, I think even the Knot has a shop where you could bulk purchase gift boxes, and then you could buy a bunch, you could, you know, again, you could buy a bunch of cookies, you could bake your own cookies, you could bake your own like mini pies, you could bake your own cupcakes, and then you could even have like a baking party, right? So get your wedding party together, get all your girlfriends together, maybe some siblings, moms, aunts, and have them over and just have a big baking assembly line, right? One person, one person mixes the dough, one person pours, one person bakes, one person checks the timer, one person cools, one person coordinates everything. And so you really could bake your own wedding favors and do it very easily, very cheaply. And when it comes to favors, budget, right? Budget will always be kind of one of those predominant factors, even more so than anything else a lot of times. So when you want to think about budget, you really want to make sure that you're considering a total budget and a price per person budget. And there's a couple of ways to do that. So one way to do that is you want to first determine what is your total budget for favors. And so you can go about it this way or the way that I'm about to tell you next. So you can either say, I only want to spend, I don't know, $300 on wedding favors, and I have 300 people coming to my wedding, therefore that works out to be $1 per person roughly, right? Or you could say, I only want to spend $1 per person, or only want to spend, let's say, $2 or $3 per person on my wedding favors, or even like $5 per person, or whatever you want to spend, right? It's your wedding, it's your budget, it's what you're comfortable with. So if you say, you know, I only want to spend $5 per person on my wedding favors, well, then you just multiply the number of wedding favors that you need by the number of people, or will need, by the number of people that are going to be coming to your wedding, then probably a couple extras, right? If you're baking, who knows if you're gonna burn a couple, or lose track of time or something like that, if maybe a few get squished on in transit, or you end up having a couple of extra guests, or maybe you want to give a few away to like your wedding coordinator, or special gifts to any of the staff that's helping with your wedding as well. Hey Natasha, thanks for joining me. Awesome. Natasha is great, by the way. So, wedding favors. So you could definitely do that. You just have to do the math, right? It's either I want to spend $500 on wedding favors and no more, so you divide that number by the number of guests that you're having, and that gives you your price per person. Or you say, well, I only want to spend $3, $4, $5 per person, and then you times that by the number of people that you're going to have at your wedding, and that will give you a budget, or at least a starting budget, right? Because you may or may not want to account for taxes, you may or may not want to account for shipping, you may or may not want to account for you know, time and gas money and other things that are going to factor into your budget when you're working out really any budget when it comes to wedding planning. So definitely think about that, and think about having baked goods as favors. It's definitely a huge trend and really, really popular right now with a lot of different brides, because baked goods are really kind of a unique expression of like who you are as a person, who you are as a couple. Maybe you have an awesome story where you had your first kiss, you know, after going out on a date for like a cupcake for dessert or something, right? Hi Phoebe, hi Sarah, how are you guys doing? Maybe you have something like that, and you have a great story that you could actually like write up, kind of like print out a short description of that story, and you could actually put that as a sticker on the side of your goodie box, or you could print those out and you could punch a hole in it and you could string through it, and you could tie that onto the box. And so people not only get a cupcake or a box of cookies or a little pie, but then they get an amazing story of you and your spouse, your fiance, of, you know, an awesome time that you had together, and then it's super personalized and wonderful. And again, you can do this super cheap, right? You don't have to buy crazy expensive paper. You don't have to buy tons of glitter. You don't have to buy, like, you know, if you're making like a pie or you're making an apple pie, you don't have to buy the most expensive apples in the world, or you know, cinnamon sticks that you have to grind yourself. If you want to do that, you have the budget for it, go ahead. That's awesome. But you don't have to do that, right? You could definitely make it simpler and make it cost effective for you as well. Natasha actually says that she's doing s'mores for favors and already have the kits. You just have to buy some s'more stuff. That's awesome. So you could do it super cute, right? You could, for Natasha, I could even think of like, if you have a story to go with s'mores, or if s'mores are your favorite food, or maybe you know, you and your fiance love camping and you love making a fire and you have a super cute story that can go along with that to really personalize it, then you can write that up and add that as kind of like a tag onto your favors as well. Or what I love with baked goods especially is you can have directions, and a lot of people don't even think about this, that like you could have raw ingredients, right? You could have like a mason jar of flour and sugar and all sorts of things, and then on the directions, instead of just saying, okay, incorporate all of this with butter and, you know, mix for 2 minutes and then put it in the oven, instead of saying just that, you could say, you know, add a teaspoon of love. You can, you know, you can incorporate all sorts of cute things like that into your recipe and into your instructions, and you can really make it fun. And it's up to you how far you go with it. It's up to you how much you want to do with it, but it could be super cute and really, really easy for you to have baked goods or have some kind of a personal expression of you as a person or as a bride, of you two people as a couple, or whatever you want to do. So I definitely encourage, if you are interested in an economical but very sweet, wonderful favor, definitely think about baked goods or like raw ingredients and having some kind of an instruction list, and it will definitely help out. So hello again. Anybody who has a question, go ahead and type it in the chat. And if you do have a question tonight and I answer it live, I will send you one of the My Wedding Planning Course notebooks free of charge. So anybody who has a question, go ahead and type that in. And while I'm waiting for questions, let's see, we can talk more about favors. So again, a lot of people think that you have to manufacture a favor, you have to buy a favor, you have to get your favors in bulk from the Oriental Trading Company. That's just not the case. If you are creative and you can do something really, really cool, then, you know, the sky is the limit. Definitely check Pinterest for alternative wedding favor ideas. A classic wedding favor would be like Jordan Almonds or Hershey's Kisses or something like that, that are usually really inexpensive, and all you have to do is buy some like all pre-cut tulle that usually come in packs of like 100 or so, for maybe $5 or $6 for a pack of 100, and then a bunch of Hershey's Kisses that you could probably buy in bulk for like 20 or 40 bucks, and then some ribbon that you can buy for, I don't know, give or take, what, $5 or $6 maybe for some ribbon. So all in all, you really only have to spend like $70, $80 to get, you know, Hershey's Kisses as wedding favors. And a quick side note from personal experience from my wedding on the wedding favors, make sure your wedding favors are placed in an area that is obvious, visible, and reachable to your guests. I didn't want my wedding favors crowding our guest tables, and that honestly was a humongous mistake that I made, because Brooklyn says, love the Hershey Kiss idea. Awesome. Good, Brooklyn. What's really cute with Hershey's Kisses too, and the tulle and stuff, you can do your own colors, right? You can get, or even M&Ms. You can get M&Ms from like the M&M store that are in most major cities, or you can even order them online and you can get like your wedding colors and do something cute with that. So that's awesome. what was I saying before that? But anyway, so yeah, so wedding favors are really great and really simple, and they don't have to be ridiculously expensive, and you can do a lot of fun with that. So Natasha is asking, can you please talk about seating chart and table numbers? How do I do a seating chart? Do I have to have one? I'm very lost. Awesome. So Natasha, lucky you, I am actually in the process right now in the last couple of days of putting together a training course on how to do a seating chart. So that will be coming out, and if you would like access to that, you can just PM me. I know you, and I'll give you access to that for free. So one thing that you definitely want to do with a seating chart, which Natasha was kind of alluding to, is you want to determine if you want to have one or not. If you don't want to have one, that's totally fine. If you do want to have one, that's totally fine too. If your wedding is more of like a formal affair, you probably want to have a seating chart just because a seating chart is more formal. If it's less formal, you don't necessarily, and you don't have to have one. If you have this super formal wedding, you don't want a seating chart, forget it. Like you don't have to have a seating chart. The wedding police won't come and find you if you don't have a seating chart. But what you can do to determine if you are going to have a seating chart or not is really look at your guest list and figure out, how many people do you have on the guest list that you really want them to have kind of that front row seat to your wedding. Not just the ceremony, but to relative to the dance floor, relative to the head table or the sweetheart table, relative to any of that sort of stuff. Do you have any relatives, friends, coworkers, anybody in your life who's attending your wedding that you want them to have that front row seat to your wedding? I cannot tell you how many times I've been to friends' weddings and I've sat all the way in the back, and I've kind of been honestly like a little pissed off that I just sit in the back of the venue, but at the same time, I understand, right? I totally get that there are people in that person's life way more important than me, like grandparents and parents and siblings, who those people deserve the front row seats, not necessarily me. So I get it. But if you're going to have a seating chart, or let's backtrack. If you are not going to have a seating chart, no problem. But what I would do is I would put a few reserved sort of place settings or reserve table markers, and most venues should have those. If not, you get a piece of paper, you fold it in half, you make a little teepee out of it, and you write reserved on both sides. Big deal. But have reserve table cards out for a couple of those head tables, and then let some of your guests know, hey, cousin Billy, can you make sure that grandma sits at one of those reserved tables? Hey, mom and dad, hey, future mother-in-law and father-in-law, can you guys please make sure that Aunt Gwen and Uncle John definitely sit at those front tables, right? So you want to make sure that, or you can even have ushers. You can have specific people that say, go find these people and make sure that they sit up at the front. That logistically is a little bit more hard. So if you're going to go down that route, I would just have the seating chart and get it over and done with. That way nobody can argue. But again, it's entirely up to you. If you are going to have a seating chart and you're going down that road as well, there's a couple ways to go about it. I don't want to give away all of my trade secrets because I am creating that training course. But I will tell you this, lists are the best thing that you can get. I would honestly take a couple pieces of paper and just break down out of your guest list who would be willing to sit with whom, or even more importantly, who wouldn't be able to sit with whom, right? Like if your aunt and your cousin are fighting, best not to sit them at the same table. If, your future mother-in-law and your sister God forbid, don't really get along, then you might want to sit them at separate tables and just think about that stuff. I know it takes time. I know it sucks. I know nobody wants to have to deal with that sort of stuff, right? It's petty. It's childish. Everybody should just be adults, but life happens, stuff happens, and we just deal with it. So write down your list of people who would be good matches together, right? So like co-workers who see each other every day may or may not be a good example of that, right? Maybe if they see each other every day, they're sick of seeing each other and they wouldn't want to sit at the same table. But if you get like an example from my wedding, my good friend Sarah and her husband and their baby, we sat them with a co-worker of my husband's, and they actually ended up kind of clicking and getting along really well, and they both had kids, and they could have a good conversation and meet new people that way. So we kind of based our seating chart off of that sort of thing. Another group of my family are just kind of really close, tight-knit, really particular, and they don't really want to meet new people. So we were absolutely sure to seat those people at a specific table all on their own, just with that. And so that was, so that was really helpful. So if you write out those lists, Phoebe is excited that you're talking about me. Yay, hi Phoebe. Sarah, one of my literally my best friend since I was like 3 years old, is on watching, and her daughter Phoebe, who's adorable, and she's 3.5 now, almost 4. She's really excited that we're talking about her mama. So yay, awesome. So definitely start out the seating chart like that, and like I said, Natasha, I am creating that product. So PM me later and I'll get you access to that when it's done. Natalie, so okay, real quick, halting Wedding Wednesday for 2 seconds. Natalie is actually my baby sister, and what, like 4 days ago, right? Today's the 28th. 4 days ago, Natalie got engaged. Oh my God. So my baby sister's engaged, and I'm so like freaking out, thrilled. So, mwah, love you, Nat. Congratulations again to you and Ryan. I love you guys. I'm so excited for you. So, Natalie says, can you give advice on how and where to start with planning a wedding and choosing a local destination or a local or destination venue? Awesome. So, this is actually a really, really good question, and one that, yay, I love you too. One that brides actually ask me all the time, and I love this question because this really is kind of the breakdown. This is like, have you ever watched dominoes kind of get started, right? And you kind of pink one, and then the others like sort of fall into place, right? Getting started in wedding planning is the domino effect, for lack of a better example. So how do you choose between a local wedding and a destination wedding? And at the end of the day, it comes down to budget, right? So if you have, let's say you want to spend, I don't know, $20,000 on your wedding, but you only want to invite like 20 people. Well, that's $1,000 per person. That's a really big budget. So you probably can have a destination wedding. Oh, thank you, ladies. They're all commenting and saying congratulations. Yay! Awesome. So if you have a really big budget, you probably can do a destination wedding. And you just really have to figure out, first and foremost, you have to figure out your budget. But then like if you have, let's say you want to invite 200 or 300 people and you have a budget of $20,000. I can't even do that math in my head really quickly, but it would break down to a much, much smaller per person value. And you want to consider that when you're looking at venues, right? Because not only are you going to have like the price of the venue, the cost to rent the venue, you're going to end up having like food costs per person, cake costs per person, you might have liquor costs per person. You're going to end up having sometimes different venues will charge like per linen, per chair, per blah, blah, blah. But so you just really, like, end of the day, like, very first thing starting out, figure out your budget. And it doesn't have to be like a hard and fast, it doesn't have to be like, 10 commandments written in stone, like I can't spend a single penny more than this, but you want to have an idea of what is my where am I starting and what is my limit? Like, okay, I can spend $20,000, but I absolutely can't spend more than 25. Or I can spend $10,000, but I absolutely can't spend more than like 12, or whatever your particular budget is. You really have to kind of hone that in first. And not even hone it in, again, it doesn't have to be written in stone, but at least get a rough idea of kind of where you want to start. And then in terms of figuring out if you want like a local wedding or you want a destination wedding, how do you do that? So something that I actually decided for my wedding was I watched a number of girlfriends of mine plan out-of-state weddings, and I knew immediately I did not want that stress. I would have loved to get married like where we grew up in Pennsylvania or where our family's from in Chicago, but what was more important to me than that was not like stressing myself out when I was planning my wedding, right? So it was really, even, I mean, we got married in Orlando. Orlando from me is like an hour away. Even that at times was kind of stressful, having to leave an hour or more early to get to meetings, to get to vendor meetings and whatnot, was really, really stressful at times, but it was certainly better than, being number of states away. And that was just a personal decision for me. It doesn't have to be difficult. I've certainly planned out-of-state events for clients, and it's not that difficult. You just have to kind of keep on top of people, right? But it was a decision that I made, and it was what was right for me. But if you're thinking destination wedding, there's probably a reason for it, right? Like, I knew that I did not want to get married in my local area because we live close to the beach, and I'm not a beachgoer. Just not. The beach is beautiful, the beach is wonderful, but it's just not for me. So I knew that I didn't want to get married locally, but I wanted to find my ideal wedding in a relatively close location. And so if you're looking for something, more of like wooded mountains, state parks, if you're looking for the beach thing, if you're looking for kind of like a backyard barn sort of wedding, or whatever it is that you're looking for, whatever appeals to you, if you can't find that in your local area, then you kind of have to go out and do a destination wedding. Or you say, okay, that's not what's important to me, right? What's important to me is what's more important to me than getting the wedding, the picturesque wedding that I want, is staying in budget. And so I'm going to outweigh this one thing with this thing and opt for, choosing to stay in budget rather than getting the picturesque wedding that I want. And so it just really depends at the end of the day what you want and where your priorities are and what's most important to you, For me, when I was planning my wedding, having a beautiful venue was really, really important. Having that venue that I dreamed of was really important, and I was really lucky that I found it only an hour away. But some people don't necessarily find that, and so you kind of have to figure that out in your own way. But what I would suggest as far as figuring that out is first determine what kind of wedding do you want? Do you want outdoor, indoor? Do you want religious, non-religious? Do you want church? Do you want, something like that? And you can even look on like Pinterest and Instagram and all of these other awesome websites to find inspiration and get ideas for like what you want and where you want to start with wedding planning as well. And then just kind of narrow it down from there. So you take one picture and say, okay, I really like Here's a good example. When I was planning my wedding, I pinned, I can't even tell you, probably like 200 or 300 pictures of ceremonies that took place in front of enormous trees. And I'm talking like one really big tree where the trunk of the tree was, you know, humongous. And that was kind of like the altar. That was the ceremony space. And I loved that you could like hang things from the branches and you could wrap things around the trunk of the tree. And I was, for a long time, I was really obsessed with finding a place, finding a venue with a tree, until I realized that it wasn't necessarily the tree that I was obsessed with. It was the idea of the tree, or it was what I could do with the tree. It was that I was really in love with, and not necessarily the tree itself. So you just kind of have to look through Pinterest and dig deep and figure out, you know, what is it that you really love, and ask your fiance as well. You know, what did they want? What do you want, and what do they want that you can put together and really make a beautiful wedding and a beautiful ceremony, a beautiful space. And so I'm talking for a long time, but my suggestion would be go on Pinterest, go on Instagram, start there with collecting photos and pinning things that you really like. And then once you get a big list, fairly big list, probably like, I don't know, like 100 photos or so, narrow down what is it about those photos that you really love? Is it the tree? Is it the landscape? Is it the flowers? Is it something that you could recreate in another way? Because for me, that tree represented freedom. That tree represented, oh, I could do this, or oh, I could do that, and it would be beautiful, and blah, blah, blah. But Mike and I ended up finding this gorgeous gazebo where I could do the exact same thing. And so that gazebo satisfied that freedom that I was looking for in those photos. So you really just kind of have to get your list of photos together, break down what it is that you like about them, just kind of dig deep and figure it out, and then go from there to see you know, what's available. And consider dates as well when you're starting out wedding planning, right? So I think we might have talked about this, but if not, it's all good. If you absolutely like have to get married at or on Christmas Day, or you have to get married on Valentine's Day, then that will narrow down the list of venues that are available to you, right? So if you don't care where you get married, but it has to be Valentine's Day, then you might end up getting married in the fire hall. But if that's okay with you, then do your thing. That's awesome. Who gives a shit? It's your wedding. But if you like have to get married in the state park, in, you know, Yosemite National Park, you have to get married in that park, but the only day that they have available is July 21st, and that day means nothing to you, well, then you decide, what are your priorities? What's more important to you? Is it the date, or is it the venue? And I would actually encourage you, go on my website, myweddingplanningcourse.com, and opt in to take the My Wedding Planning or My Best Wedding quiz. And if you do, that quiz will actually help you discern between what is most important and what's least important for your wedding. And that would be actually a really, really good starting point for you as well. So awesome. I have no idea what time it is, but we're going to go ahead and end Wedding Wednesday. Thank you all so much for your questions. Thank you for congratulating my sister on her engagement. Thank you all for spending your Wednesday evening with me. I love every one of you, and I hope you're having an amazing wedding planning experience. So I can't wait to see you next week right here on Facebook Live at 7 p.m. Eastern for Wedding Wednesday. Until then, if there's anything that I can help with or anything that you need, please private message me or write us at support@myweddingplanningcourse.com. Bye guys.